was no amount of health information or fear or shame that would actually change me. It was when I started shifting the lens of I need to overpower my struggles and my cravings and instead soften and start looking at them through the lens of curiosity and compassion and start listening and saying, why am I struggling? The intensity didn't change me, but the softening and the curiosity, that opened up the doorway to start looking at what are my cravings actually here to teach me?
I'm really excited for this conversation because we're going somewhere deeper than just food. I'm joined by Gina Worful, founder of the Mastering Mindfulness Institute, and what she shares completely flips the script on cravings. Instead of lack of discipline, she reveals what your cravings are actually trying to tell you, and why fighting them might be the very thing keeping you stuck. This one will change how you see your body. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Danette May Show, where you'll receive profound breakthroughs, courage to break old patterns, and live into your soul's purpose. Each week, I will bring you epic guests and live coaching to remind you of your power. You have the ability to achieve extraordinary things, and the time to start is now. You're in Austin, and you're loving it, but you're also traveling a lot. What about Austin do you actually really love? I'm always fascinated what areas people are drawn to, especially when they're putting in roots and living there. What draws you there?
Well, I settled into downtown Austin thinking I was going to be in the center of everything and all of the energy. And after living in downtown, I think I use the walking trails the most. But, so I don't know if it's so much about the area that you live in, but there's this amazing energy of Austin where people are just there to meet each other and to connect. And there's just this beautiful energy of people wanting to be friends, wanting to meet each other. And I was really ready for that energy when I moved to Austin.
To meet other entrepreneurs, other like-minded people, community, things like that. That's awesome. That's great. Well, Gina, let's talk about, so you guys, just so you know, Gina had me on her podcast. I'll link that below. And I just felt like you were such a light. I met you at my book party briefly, which is totally different than actually having a conversation on a podcast per se. But it was just interesting how your mom knew of me, you, and the questions you asked. I thought you were such a good podcaster.
Thank you.
The questions you asked. But this world of nutrition, this world of food and understanding cravings and labeling it different is what draws me to you, is that it's coming, the way you educate is coming from such a place of empowerment. And that's why I really want to have you on. A lot of people that are listening to my show are going to be into this conversation. What brought you down into the path of really wanting to do nutrition?
Oh, well, where it really started for me wanting to do nutrition was my mom. My parents were so into health. My mom followed you for years. So I had very health conscious parents, and I was so interested in health and nutrition. And so I figured, if I go to school to be a dietitian, I'll have all the answers that I need. It'll be easy. I'll be healthy forever. And what ended up happening was quite a rude awakening for me, was that I thought that everything would be easy if I got the degrees and I became a dietitian. And what I ended up finding was I knew how to eat healthy. I knew what to do. But then sometimes it felt like there was something inside of my body that was stronger, that was how to eat healthy, or what to do, but pulling me to the kitchen when I wasn't hungry, or I felt this internal struggle thinking about food and fighting off this feeling of cravings or urges with food all the time. And it started to get me to question, what if there's something that I'm missing that I don't know? And when I first became a dietitian, I was working with all these clients and thinking I was going to change the world, and they were all struggling too. And so I was like, what am I missing here? I just got all these degrees and I know what to do, but I'm still internally I'm struggling. And that sent me down a really different path.
And tell us about this path, because this is such a potent message, and I know most people can relate to what you're actually saying. You can understand nutrition, you can be degreed in it. Doesn't mean that internal energy that drives us to food and certain foods is going to go away. So tell me what you tell us this path.
Yeah. I think a lot of people get that where they're so motivated. They really want, it's not that they don't want it, right? We want this change. We know what we're supposed to do, but it feels like there's something internally that's stronger, and it can feel very confusing. And I think on the outside, the health industry or the diet industry labels this as you just have a lack of discipline. You just need more discipline. You need more willpower. You need more focus. But it's actually something inside of our bodies that is shifting and changing. And without that understanding, we'll always go to war with ourselves and with our bodies and with our food, and it just won't be strong enough. Mm-hmm. And I saw that. And as I was over here, I was thinking about if I wanted to share this story, but I think I've never shared the story out loud, but I think
we love that. We love that.
I've only shared it with one person, which was with my partner recently. I told him this story a couple of weeks ago because I felt like this was something I was only holding on within myself that I had never said out loud. And I think it will serve its purpose here for our conversation. So when I was really at the peak of this struggle of knowing how to eat healthy, knowing what to do, I was working for a destination wellness resort as their dietitian, and they would have celebrities come and all these really incredible people who had very high expectations for getting help with their health. And so they really trained us. We went to the best conferences, had all the best knowledge of nutrition, but I was also facing the peak of my own struggles with food. And so I thought working at this health spa would put enough pressure on me to be the face of health that it would snap me into, snap out of it, eat well, stay on track. And it wasn't working, but I had this woman come in to my office for a nutrition counseling session, and I was just giving her everything I got. I'm teaching her about her hormones. I'm telling her all the best foods to eat. We're talking about her labs. And after the session, she's like, I can just see she has tears in her eyes because she gets all this amazing information. She feels so seen. She said, "Can I hug you?" And I said, "Of course." And I got up from behind my desk and I go to give her a hug, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're pregnant. When are you due?" And I was not pregnant. And internally, I was just dying in like, should I lie to her? And I had to tell her, I'm not pregnant.
Oh boy.
And I needed to be the face in the picture of health at this wellness resort. And I'm just like dying in shame. And after she left, I thought, you know what? I'm changing my life this time. I have the knowledge to do it. I have so much pressure. I was like afraid I was going to get fired. And I have so much deep shame that I'm not living what I know what to do. Now I'm ready.
But that led you on a different journey, didn't it?
I didn't change. I actually still struggled for a couple years. And I think that is the approach that we take, is let me load myself up with knowledge, shame myself, fear myself into, you better do this, you have to do this. And so if anyone is struggling with shame around their inability to change, I had the degrees and the knowledge and the expertise, and that's not what changed me. It took me a few years to realize that there was no amount of health information or fear or shame that would actually change me. It was when I started shifting the lens of I need to overpower my struggles and my cravings and instead soften and start looking at them through the lens of curiosity and compassion and start listening and saying, why am I struggling? And so the intensity didn't change me, but the softening and the curiosity, that opened up the doorway to start looking at, what are my cravings actually here to teach me?
Wow. I am so grateful you shared this story. This story needs to be shared a lot because it's not so much what she said. What I'm grabbing a hold of is this girl with her intensity, this girl that's like, I will conquer this. I will be stronger. And there was an element of shame with that intensity of like, I will overcome this. And what we're learning with our little wise, as we're getting wiser as women, is like, the love for self, the curiosity, the softening, the understanding what's underneath all of this drive and shame is the answer. It is the beauty. And honestly, we also need to change this idea that you have to be very thin to be healthy too, because that isn't also true. That is also not true. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling you probably were just bloated.
That's what I told her. I said, I just I don't really know. And I think that the
it could have
body
just
piece
been,
isn't the point, but it was that I finally had. I think I was trying so hard to be like, this isn't a real thing. My struggles aren't a real thing, that I didn't want to face. And it was honestly probably like an angel. It felt like probably a spirit guide being a mirror of saying, hey, look at what's going on. You're hurting inside, and there's something you don't understand, and maybe it's an opportunity to do things differently.
Wow. Okay. Now you went into this journey of curiosity and softening. Mm-hmm. And what did you learn from that journey that you're teaching others?
I originally saw my struggles with food and my cravings with food as this lack of discipline and willpower. But when I started getting curious and saying, what is happening inside of those moments, I started to realize something really important, which is every time I felt this like urge or this craving for food, there was something that I actually needed that I didn't know how to provide for myself yet. Whether it was like a moment of where I felt so overwhelmed with work and having this fear of the unknown and not knowing where things were going to go. And that fear became so intense. Sometimes it was around productivity. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, if I don't get enough done today. And that's when I craved food. This fear of like, if I don't get enough done today, and well, what is underneath that? What if I don't get enough done today? Oh my gosh, nothing will move forward. And what if nothing moves forward? I will fail. What if I fail? Oh my God, I won't be good enough. And so that was when I craved food, when underneath there was a deep fear or a deep sense of loneliness, and I didn't know how to feel love or connection, or my nervous system was overwhelmed and I was so stressed, and I didn't realize that my body was letting me know it was hitting this capacity of too much stress, too much emotion, too much fear, too much overwhelm. And the craving for food, I thought it was like my enemy, but it was actually there to support me. It was actually my ally. Mm-hmm. It was helping me feel better. It was helping me regulate my nervous system. It was helping me through something that I didn't know how to feel or deal with at the time. So now I shifted with this lens of curiosity of like, this struggle isn't my enemy. And that's why it's always felt like a struggle, because there's actually a craving that's trying to get my attention. Like, you need support right now. And when I looked at it through that lens, I could start feeling how my body was shifting and what my body was really needing. And now I started creating a harmonious relationship with food that I had never had before.
Wow. So guaranteed, probably if we have 10 people listening right now, 9.5 of them are raising their hand. And obviously, a lot of times, I think most women listening are nodding their head or they're feeling this resonance, but they don't know for sure if it's loneliness or if it's pressure or lack of self-worth or whatever those deep core human desires and needs are that a lot of times we lacked getting, and we don't know how to self-soothe in those ways. Let's say some woman doesn't really know what that thing is, but she knows it's playing out in food. She knows it's playing out in lack of movement and just taking care of herself, because it is a self-fulfilling prophecy of being like, well, let me use this other tool to signify to myself that once again, I'm not worthy. Once again, whatever the thing is. So if she doesn't know what it is, it doesn't really matter, because you got to get there because you want to like work through that. But would you tell her to get there? How would you tell her what path would you put her on? Because it's less about food actually at this point. Mm-hmm. Like let's move the food, even though you and I are nutritionists, let's move the food off the table, literally.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what's really going on. Let's lay out all the other ingredients, which is, wow, you were always held to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Wow, you never felt enough. Like this is what we're going to talk about and lay out on the table. How does she get there? How does she go to that?
So this is where it gets interesting and where it can get kind of fun. Once you kind of click over from judgment,
This is about gluten-free or not gluten-free or more protein, or like, let's just move the food literally off the table.
Well, and so if we look at our struggles from I judge myself, from I have no willpower, I have no discipline, and now I switch over to the lens of curiosity, this is where it gets interesting, because with curiosity, you can start to pay attention to how your body communicates to you differently through sensation, and it will start to give you clues as to what you're really needing. Mm-hmm. So for example, sometimes it is really deep, like what you're saying, like I developed this core belief that's really intense. It might also just be that my body is telling me I need food and I haven't nurtured and nourished my body. But either way, when I feel that urge or that loss of my power with food, that's a clue. My body is going into a safety response. Now, how can I start to explore the different sensations in my body to feel what kind of safety response it is? So for example, when people try so hard to get healthy, a lot of the time, the first thing they do is they eat a little bit of food all day. I'm going to have coffee. I'm going to just eat the salad. And their body isn't used to that blood sugar drop. And so then all of a sudden they'll hit this blood sugar drop, maybe at 4 p.m. And you can feel when you have a blood sugar drop, right? You're hangry, you're a little shaky, your mood starts to shift. That is like the warning sign from your body that's like, safety, we need food. And if that safety response doesn't get honored, then our body takes over the controls. We end up binging on chips because we're so starving. That feels really different from, let's say, if your body goes into a different stress response. Let's say you're full, maybe you're not even hungry, and you're in a really good mood, and it's sunny outside and you hear a good song and you're just in a really good mood and you're like, I'm going to eat healthy forever. I'm going to eat the salad, and your nervous system is regulated. But then all of a sudden you feel like a stress and your nervous system gets overwhelmed. Maybe something comes up with work and you feel overwhelmed and stressed. And then it could almost feel like instantly you're in like a hypnosis. And all of a sudden you're thinking about like, oh my gosh, cookies. I need cookies right now. And you go like into this primal like tunnel vision, and your brain is like, that's not your goals. Eat the salad. That's not your goals. But there's something else that feels more primal, and you're in like tunnel vision and you're like, no, I'm eating those cookies and I can't stop. That's a different signal. That's your body's stress response. That's your body feeling not safe, overwhelmed from stress. And it's almost like you feel like you're being hypnotized. And so that's when people are like, whoa, it's like something took over my brain. My brain got hijacked. And that's different areas of your brain that are working. Mm-hmm. When your nervous system's regulated, it's more of our prefrontal cortex that's active. It gives us good willpower, rational thinking. I should eat the salad. But when our nervous system, our stress response turns on, and that gets activated, the area of our brain that's more active is our amygdala. Now that dulls our willpower, increases our drive for sugar, and it disconnects the area of our brain that processes feeling full. So now we're like craving sugar. We feel like we're in this primal hypnosis of where we're like, I need this food, and we can't stop eating. And that's like the body's survival response for stress. Mm-hmm. So that feels different. Now, another one that might feel completely different is if you actually have low serotonin in your brain. Some people who are on a low protein diet, or who maybe are vegetarian or vegan, or they're not getting enough of that amino acid tryptophan to make serotonin, if serotonin levels are low, our bodies create the craving for sugar and glucose to help raise serotonin.
Yeah.
But that craving feels different. Now you might feel like kind of melancholy or depressed, and you feel like mid-afternoon or right before bed, you're really like craving sugar or alcohol to help improve your mood a little bit. It's kind of like this grazing feeling, not in the morning, but in the afternoon or in the evening. And that's how our bodies are craving sugar to help raise serotonin. And now there's one more that feels a little bit different. is, let's say you have this pattern that we talked about, like from your childhood, that's connected to like an emotion, where maybe when you were a child and your mom wasn't home, and so your pattern was, I feel scared, I want to feel loved, I'm going to grab a snack and sit in front of the TV and eat these cookies. And now as an adult, you feel that same desire when you're lonely. Now that's more like, I don't have this hypnosis feeling, I'm not taken over, but I do have this pattern that comes up that feels very familiar, like I'm trying to fulfill an emotion or an unmet need. And that tends to be like a pattern that repeats, and it just feels different. So we can start to get little clues of like, how does the craving feel in my body?
Yeah.
And it expresses itself a little bit different depending on what my body is needing. But the underlying theme is when I crave food, my body is trying to support me and give me something that I need.
Absolutely.
Very different, right?
Yes. Wow. So good. And I actually resonated because I'm going to be vulnerable with everybody listening too. I'm not hungry at night, but it's a feeling of comfort to have like a little sweet snack at night when I'm either reading a book or watching a show. And it does, when you were drawing that picture, it's like a little kid that's like, oh, I just got put up with my blanket and my little nibs or whatever I was getting, and it just felt so comforting. And I'm getting my little treat with my blankets, because I'll even have a blanket around me. It's wild. and I've just learned, for me, because I've noticed this, and my husband jokes, he's like, oh, getting into your little snack. And I'm like, now I just own it. Like, yeah, this is my fun thing I love, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I know it's coming, and I kind of celebrate it now, and I just make it quite healthy, like some dates and some dark chocolate chips. And if I want a little crunch, I'll add whatever, like some crackers or whatever, depending on what I want. And I'll put it in my bowl like a little kid would get in their little bowl, and I just make it fun, and then I'm good, but I don't deny it.
You said something so important that is such a huge reframe that can make such a big difference for people, that you don't deny it. And I think that we have gotten so many messages that if I'm eating to fulfill a feeling of comfort or love or pleasure, that's a bad thing. Like, I'm emotionally eating, or this is a bad thing and I shouldn't be doing it, that it's wrong. So it's that feeling of wrongness that causes us to panic and disassociate and binge and feel like, oh my gosh, if I eat this faster, it won't feel so wrong, or I won't pay attention. And that's where it feels like a struggle. But when you're like, oh, I know that I want to feel good, I want to feel pleasure, I want to feel comfort, and we don't deny ourselves of that, then we do it from a place of like presence, and we actually let our bodies enjoy it and receive what we're really genuinely craving. And then it tends to shift the way that we relate to it. It tends to like hit the spot versus like checking out and disassociating from it. And we feel so much more in harmony with it just by allowing ourselves to experience what we want from it.
Yeah, through your studies, I'm curious from your perspective, because you've worked with a lot of women, are you finding that if women really start claiming pleasure in all forms, whether it's pleasure with food or pleasure in life or pleasure of just noticing the smell of something, pleasure of lovemaking, just like really being present to pleasure, does that impact how their body responds to food?
I believe it's a really interesting question. I believe that it shifts how they relate to food. And I won't really know for sure if it changes how their body responds to food.
Because that would be a chemical response. But I've noticed that women actually go, why am I dropping weight?
Yeah.
Like I'm not really changing much other than my pleasure has changed.
Well, it's all connected too, because when you're not in a fear response, it's like your cortisol is coming down. That helps balance out your blood sugar. That helps shift a favorable state in your body to be able to lose weight. If you're in a state of fear and your cortisol is revved up, it's a very difficult state to be in inside of your body and be able to lose weight and have a good body composition. And so just shifting from allowing pleasure and to not be in a state of fear, I would imagine is shifting on a biochemical level inside of our bodies. I would imagine cortisol is coming down. And also just giving yourself permission to be present with the experience. That's when you start to enjoy desserts without feeling this internal need to binge on it.
Mm-hmm.
It changes everything. And what you said too is something else really important and very cool is when you look at your relationship to pleasure, it can be such a mirror for everything else in our lives.
100%.
So food can be this incredible way to discover ourselves because it's an honest mirror of like, do I allow myself pleasure? Do I believe that I deserve pleasure? Do I trust myself to feel good? And where else does that show up in my life?
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be this amazing mirror to discover ourselves.
100%. And then have you noticed, because we're talking a lot about these under layers of emotion that most people are feeling, like, and it shows up in different forms, right? When it comes to food, types of food and things like that. But have you noticed any trends around, and granted, you're probably like, whoa, she's misleading me something that I'm not, I don't even know what your answer is.
Lay it on me.
Yeah, I'm like, because I'm really fascinated with deep trauma healing and how that impacts how someone consumes and how someone not even just consumes like amount wise, but the type of food they actually would be drawn to. Have you noticed that correlation of deep trauma work, whether that comes in a therapy or let's just call psychedelics? Have you noticed a correlation with that?
I would imagine there's a huge benefit to deep trauma work, psychedelics, that kind of work. It's not something that I integrate into my programs, but what I do find is that we use food when our capacity to feel an emotion is too much and it's too intense. It's like when I'm like, oh, this emotion is too big, which tends to go hand in hand with trauma, then we go into the realm of going into our mind's disassociation for that protection. When we live up here, that's when it's hard to feel, am I hungry? Am I full? And so when we live with our attention up here, it's where we get kind of trapped by cravings and am I hungry? Am I not hungry? And that path to rebuilding trust is bringing our attention down here. But in the case of like trauma where emotions don't feel safe yet, it can be a process of rebuilding a sense of safety with our feelings. And sometimes that can be a little bit of a process, but everyone gets to go with their own pace.
Yeah.
So you might notice like, there's a feeling here that in the past, my nervous system might have felt like this is danger, this is too much. And I might slowly start bringing my attention to that feeling and bringing in love, bringing in safety, bringing in regulation, and moving towards it at my capacity that I still feel safe.
Yeah.
That I might feel uncomfortable, but I can still be in a place of curiosity, like, wow, I wonder what's here. And so a lot of the work that I do is we're not processing memories and deep trauma in the past, but we're meeting some of those emotions that have been too uncomfortable, too big, that hasn't had enough safety around and bringing love and safety. And the more that we grow our capacity to feel this wide range of emotions that we have, gently the need for food to create that sense of safety and being okay goes away. That's when the cravings go away on their own. We don't have to force them in willpower. It's this gentle handoff that like, as I feel safe in my emotions, I don't need food to do that for me anymore.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's just a topic that I think is important at this time that we're in right now. There's a lot coming out. There was the Me Too movement, and now there's all this coming out. Every woman I've worked with, honestly, it started in the nutrition realm and then it turned into these healing experiences. Every single woman, now I'm seeing a massive correlation of a woman who's come through my programs, who's she's educated. She actually knows, has the meal plan, knows, but she cannot seem to release the weight. And she might even actually eat really healthy, but not release the weight. And I'm finding there's a lot of sexual trauma tie. And actually, I'm going to just arguably say that most women have sexual trauma, and it doesn't always have to look like unsolicited sex that was given to you. It can be a choice that you made that you're holding on a shame too. So I arguably would say that every woman is dealing with some form of sexual trauma, which is tied to pleasure. And if we can get there, and I'm sharing as like this person, this advocate person with you, because you're actually in the nutrition realm. I'm kind of stepping out and more into this trauma realm, but we both share this deep reverence and love to the power of food and the power of this medicine and this world of that can be so impactful, healthy, and healing for us, but also so damaging. It's like this double coin. And so I guess I'm like getting chills. I guess I want to like use this time with you to speak to every woman to say, we see you. We know you have sexual trauma. We know that there's some story in there. Something happened to let go of the shame around food right now, because it's so much deeper, and to go there first, to heal that first. You're deserving of that healing. You're deserving of that acknowledgement, and to get the resources you need to heal that. And maybe you and I would both say, and you know what? This whole food conversation is going to become, it won't be the conversation. Yeah. And it will become a lot easier, and your worth won't be tied up in it anymore. And this idea of I'm actually eating really well and my body's not responding, my external body is not reflecting what I'm internally choosing, will also shift. Because, you know, let's be honest, we're women. We want to feel beautiful when we look in the mirror. We want to feel empowered in our bodies and in the mirror. And I have a strong sense that there's a huge sexual correlation to this.
Yeah, and I think about that woman who you're speaking to, and so many women who try so hard to change what they're eating. And I think about when your body doesn't feel safe, and then you try to take away because you were restricting and trying to do that 1,000-calorie meal plan, and you're feeling like a failure. It's like you just took away your body's sense of safety.
1,000%.
And so your body isn't broken, and you're not failing, and your hunger and your appetite, while you might believe that it's like this thing that your body's broken and against you, it's not. Your body is asking for something from you. And when we start like giving what our body is asking, and then everything falls into place with food, and it feels easy. And then it shifts into what you said is like to feel empowered in our own bodies, that I can feel like my body is not broken. My body needs me. And when I'm struggling, it's not a time to overpower. It's a time to actually connect with it and feel and listen to what it's needing. And then I think everything falls into place, and that's the path to empowerment. We think that empowerment looks like if I just tracked harder, if I just controlled my food more, that's my power. But power isn't controlling our food more. Power is like when we listen so deeply to our own bodies that we don't need control.
Oof. Yes. Amen.
Right?
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. I'm always like that 20-year-old influencer that's on YouTube that's like, I'm my 4 a.m. routine. I'm like, oh, honey, when you're 40, we're going to really have to help you soften.
I was that person, though.
I know.
I was that person.
You were a big driver. That's why you're successful, and those pathways worked for you. Yeah. But in the end, they were stopped working for you. That's my point to this girl. I'm like watching. I'm like, okay, when you're 40, this isn't going to work for you anymore, and you're going to wonder why. And it's because the path has always been to honor ourselves and to reclaim back that. And somewhere along the way, we've taken on all the different advice of harder, more disciplined, and it's creating a little bit of disassociation. Yeah. But I want to shift it a little bit, because obviously everyone listening to this is hearing about GLP-1s, whether they're hearing positive or negative, or they're taking it and it's also a secret. I want to ask you what's your stance from the education you've received around GLP-1s, because I've heard a lot of things. I have my own opinion, but I want to curious what yours is.
Well, I think that it needs to be such a personal decision, because I do understand that there are some people who are struggling so deeply, and reversing their health is such a priority that GLP-1 might be the path for them, and that might be the right answer. Because the work that I do is for a very different person. Someone who wants to take a GLP-1, they might not really want to face and explore their own inner world. And they might just say, I just need to fix my health stuff as fast as possible. And I don't have the capacity to go into my inner world, nor do I want to. Mm-hmm. The people who do the kind of work I think that we do are the people who are like, show me what I have to learn. Mm-hmm. Like, show me about my struggles. Let me feel my feelings. What do I have to learn about myself? And sometimes that's not the fastest, sexiest, lose 30 pounds in 30 days kind of program. Sometimes like it takes patience and love, and it takes capacity and a willingness, and it requires support and mentors, and you have to be in it for a little bit of the adventure. And I think the rewards on the other side are huge when you see that there was nothing wrong with your body, and you love yourself more deeply, and you see that the struggles that you had were leading you to learn the lessons of how to navigate your loneliness in ways that you never learned before, why you were so overwhelmed and stressed. And I think that that's so beautiful, but it takes a willingness and a certain level of capacity to go there. And so the people who I work with versus GLP-1s they're just looking for different things, I think.
Yeah. Wow. That was so beautifully said and articulated, honestly. That was actually really, really powerful. And I've never heard anyone say it with so little judgment. Like the both spectrums are fine. You just have to know where you want to go. And you use the word adventure, which I was like, that's brilliant. It's an adventure. Look at it like an adventure. You're on an adventure to discover yourself.
You are. And when you look at it in that way, is like, when I look back on this path that I've been on, it's been a few years, and it's come with very hard moments. But when I look back, I'm so grateful. If GLP-1s were around at the peak of my struggles, if they were a thing, I would have said yes. I would have done anything to get rid of my struggles immediately. I'm grateful that I didn't, because I've learned so much about myself along the way. I've had incredible mentors. I've had deeper conversations with people now, because I can go there with you. I can be like, I know what it's like when you're struggling. And I'm so grateful for the people that I've met, the adventure that I've been on, the people who I've cried with, who I've been vulnerable with, the answers I didn't have when I was like, how am I going to get out of this? I don't know. Like, it's actually a really beautiful story and adventure, and it continues to deepen and it continues to grow. And those are some of the questions I asked you, is like, where are you growing now? Because when you are on this journey with your body, it's like, it's a never ending unfolding adventure and story if you're willing to go there. And I don't regret any of it. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, you're really making a difference. And I'm really grateful you're on this path, because you are such a compassionate soul. And I think anybody who gets to be your client is truly blessed, honestly, because of your heart and your wisdom, and actually seeing and experiencing the gamut of it, and that vulnerability of that is really, really impactful. So I really am so grateful for you that you're doing this work, because we need that.
Yeah.
We don't need the next 5-step plan.
Totally.
Even though I did many of them, but for marketing purposes,
I
appreciate that you're having these types of conversations.
And it's not that like health and nutrition is a bad thing. Like,
no.
We're both so passionate about it. I still believe so
medicine.
much. It truly is. And but it's the deeper stuff that allows it to work. And I appreciate just the resonance so much. And I feel so grateful to be here having this conversation with you, because I don't feel like we've challenged, and there hasn't been enough people to really challenge and get us to think differently about looking at our bodies and ourselves through this lens of curiosity and compassion. And it's been beautiful to see your work and your podcast, and how it helps people look at their beliefs, their struggles, and look at those things and ask, are they truths? And look a little bit deeper to like bring people into more curiosity and compassion. And, mine just personally happened to be some struggles with food and not understanding why, but being able to look at it through the lens of curiosity and compassion, and realize like there was nothing wrong with me then. It wasn't a lack of discipline. I needed to understand myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, with that being said, I know that this has been a wealth of information for everybody. I want to know, because you came here on the show, you even flew here, like, what is that one message that you want to share with the woman that's probably in her car or in her home listening to this?
I think if you're struggling to not stop there, to start looking at things through the lens of curiosity and to start bringing your attention inward. And if I looked at my body was so perfect, what if my body was so perfect? What would be the benefit of me having this struggle, this craving, this urge within me? What is it here for me or to teach me about myself? And asking that question can take us so far, like the whole way there.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here on the show. Thank you for your wisdom and your love and honestly, your knowledge. It's so great. And we'll link everything below, guys. Thank you so much, Gina, for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.